Once upon a time in a world of magic, light, and darkness.
Gwen was a child again, standing in the kitchen as the smell of her mother's cooking filled the air. She could barely see over the counter, but the shadowy figure of her mother loomed above, casting a cold glance down at her. Gwen's little hands reached up, hoping for a taste of the food, but her mother's face remained stern, her eyes full of annoyance. The door creaked open, and her father appeared with shadowy figures behind him. His smile stretched across his face as if a great deal had been struck. Hands, rough and faceless, reached out, grabbing her. She screamed for her parents, reaching out with her tiny arms, but the distance between them grew. The kitchen, her mother and father, everything shrank away into darkness. The door closed, sealing her away from them. And yet, the smell of food lingered, growing stronger. Suddenly, when awoke, blinking as the dream slipped away, replaced by the dim light of the cave, the fire flickered before her, and the aroma of cooking filled her senses. She sat up slowly, taking in the sight of the Casitan spit roasting 2 love spurs over the fire. Beneath the birds, half of a Gafnar shell caught the drippings, and in the other half she saw the nutty flesh of the Gafnar fruit sitting on large malum leaves. Her stomach growled, and her mouth watered as the smell hit her fully. She wiped the saliva from her lips and squinted at the Casitan. "How did you find love spurs on the volcanic flats?" she asked, suspicion creeping into her voice. The Casitan smiled gently. "I had to go beyond the flats," he admitted. He turned the bird slowly, revealing sprigs of moslin herbs and a light sprinkling of salt from the eastern mines. The seasoning, too, impressed her. "You even seasoned them," Gwen muttered more to herself than to him. "I couldn't guarantee the taste without it," he replied, pulling the spit from the fire. "But it should give you strength." He carefully plated the roasted love spurs in 1/2 of the Gafnar shell and poured the drippings mixed with funny pod juice and diced moslin herbs into the other. He handed her the makeshift plate, cautioning her with a gentle tone. "It might still be hot." Casitan stared at the food, her hunger intensifying, but she hesitated. The Casitan had gone through all this effort for her. Her suspicion flared again. "Why aren't you eating?" she asked, her voice accusatory. "You need it more than I do," he answered simply. "Mana energy keeps me going." She narrowed her eyes. "You've poisoned it, haven't you?" The Casitan's head drooped as he sighed, looking back up at her with an almost pleading expression. "I promise, I haven't poisoned it. No purification spells either." "Nothing like that." Wen crossed her arms. "I won't know that for sure until I see you eat some of it." The Casitan chuckled softly, shaking his head. "And then you'll say it's tainted by my lips." But Wen was firm. She tore off a small piece of lovesper meat and held it out to him. "Eat." The Casitan took the piece of meat, bowed slightly in respect, and popped it into his mouth. He chewed slowly, then swallowed, and smiled. "See, not poisoned." After scrutinizing him for a moment longer, Wen finally relented, grabbing a piece of the lovesper and dipping it into the sauce. The flavors hit her at once. The tender meat, the herbs, the vuni pod juice. And for a moment she thought it was the most delicious thing she had ever eaten. The hunger overtook her, and she devoured the food, savoring every bite. The Casitan watched her quietly for a moment, a strange sense of awe in his gaze. Here she was, this defiant young witch who had resisted him at every turn, yet bested him so easily in these battles of will. It amused him, but it also stirred something inside him that he didn't expect. Wen paused mid-bite, catching him staring. She glared. "It's rude to watch people eat." He laughed softly. "My apologies," he said, leaning back against the cave wall, though his eyes lingered on her a little longer before he looked away, his thoughts drifting. After a while, as she neared the end of her meal, Wen broke the silence. "Who is Alyssa?" The question seemed to catch the Casitan off guard. His body shifted slightly, sitting forward as if struck by something. His mind had slipped. He'd lowered his defenses too much around her. He chuckled quietly, impressed but also surprised by her ability to read his thoughts. "You're doing it again," Wen muttered, narrowing her eyes. "Your thoughts disappeared." He smiled gently. "She's an impossible desire. Nothing for you to concern yourself with." Wen raised an eyebrow, curious. "Impossible desires?" she asked, her voice quieter now. "Do you have any?" The Casitan considered the question before turning it around. "Do you?" Wen paused for a moment, then said, "I'd like to eat Kabri Kubgo soup at the Milling Eyes market." The Casitan tilted his head, puzzled. "Mili isn't far. We could get there with a day's travel." She cut him off. "Not for me," she said flatly. "I can never go to Mili again." And with that, she returned to her meal, leaving the Casitan to wonder what secrets lay beneath her defiant, guarded exterior.